Yo, what's up? I'm Ekoh and I'm hanging out with Rob on Front Row Live.
It's awesome to finally get to talk to you. I've been a fan of you for some time, and I've been able to see this hustle, this grind that you have going on, making it seem like, I mean, you're an independent artist, but from our perspective, it seems like you have a major label right behind you, or a big machine behind you, because of the way that you produce your music, the way that you release those music videos, the way that you promote, like everything that you do does not is not something that an independent artist would normally do. So I want to start off by talking about kind of figuring out your hustle and being able to kind of figure out this technique that you have going on for your music and your promo.
Dope. Well, yeah, thanks for having me, man. I'm super stoked to be here. Damn, that's kind of a big question. See, I guess the way I've always operated is like if someone else isn't gonna do it, then I'll just do it myself, and that's kind of been. I'll learn how to do it myself, right? If I don't know how to edit a music video, then I will watch some YouTube videos and learn how to do Premiere and then do it myself. Or if I don't know how to mix a song, I'll figure out how to mix a song. Earlier in my career when I was mixing my own songs and whatever I was doing is just like it's always. It seems to be just a means of if I can't figure it out or if I can't find someone to do it, I'll just figure out how to do it myself. But as far as the work grind is always the music is the most important, right? Always.
Right.
Like you have to have a good song, you have to have good content, but second most important and almost tied with the first sometimes is like how you're putting that music out, the way you're promoting it, how are you going to get it to people? You can't just put music out and expect people to like it. Everybody's putting music out. Everybody wants what, to be making music for a living. You know what I'm saying? Everybody wants to have a fan base. So the way you promote it, the way that you do all that is incredibly important. And I've always just tried to step outside the box and do something a little bit different, just to be a little, I don't know, more unique or something that people can get something here that they're not getting somewhere else. Um, so that's really where my, hustle and grind came from is wanting knowing I make good music or knowing that I like the music I make and wanting so desperately for people to see it and knowing that they're not going to see it by me just putting out. And so there's got to be some sort of hustle that comes to pushing it to people. You know what I mean?
As far as your music goes, for me, it was Comeback Season back in 2018 that caught my attention to you. And that was actually
Yeah.
the original D3tour. That was the debut D3tour. So for me, one of the things that, I mean, a few of the things that I really loved about you was your rawness in your lyrics, but I also loved your wordplay in your lyrics, and I also loved the cadence in your music. So for you, as you grow from releasing all of this music to now we're on D3, how do you feel you've evolved, and how do you better yourself as a lyricist during each record that you release?
I just really try and fine tune everything. So the revising process of my writing process has become probably the largest part of it. I used to like sit down and be like, I'm going to finish the song, or I'm not getting up until I finish the song. You know what I'm saying? That used to be my writing process, and I would sit down and I would write until the verses were finished, and that was it. Now my process is I'll sit down and I'll write, and I don't finish it up that day, I'll come back the next day. Or if I do finish it up, I'm coming back to revise and going back through every line and how can I make this different? Or have I used that cadence before? Or is that line lazy? Or could I make that a cooler moment? And is that transition to that part of that verse as good as it can be? And all that kind of stuff is like, that's what's most important to me now is just really trying to make it to me as best as I can do and as different as I can do. And a lot of people, not a lot of people, but some people might be like, oh, I like the way you used to do stuff, or that doesn't really happen much. But I have to continue to evolve, and I have to try and do new things and do new sounds. And if, you know, if there's modern sounds or things that are popular in modern day music, I like to incorporate it into my music the best that I can. So a lot of that is, you know, a lot of the way my writing process has evolved is just me getting bored. You know what I mean? I can write the same shit, you know, 1,000 times, but I start getting bored of it. And if I get bored, I know the people listening are getting bored, and I want to be excited about what I'm making. So it's really comes down to me. The revision process of my verses is really digging as far as I can into that.
As far as like the wordplay, how do you come up with these kinds of wordplays that you do throughout your music? Is there a lot of reading that you kind of do? Like, because some of the things you say, I'm just like, how did he come up with that? Like, so do you see yourself doing some kind of research before you actually start to kind of put words together for your lyrics, or does this just naturally flow for you?
I mean, it depends on the song. If you're talking about like a Marvel or a DC rap or something like that, like I have a lot of knowledge in my head, but I'm still doing the research just because people are looking for you to mess up on songs like that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I know I have to be airtight on whatever I do. But a lot of the other stuff is really throughout the day. If I think of different lines, I'll write them in my notes, or if I have ideas for stuff, or I just write a lot. So I write every single day, and majority of what I write doesn't see the light of day. But when you do that much, I know if I'm writing a song, if it's going to eventually come out, and I can know in the back of my head, like this is a throwaway, or this is just an exercise or whatever. But I still have, lines that I'll write. And when you write a lot, when you get to a song that you know is coming out, you can remember back like, oh yeah, I remember that one line. That was really dope. And then I'll hop in there and try and rework a line that I wrote a year ago or whatever it is and throw it into something. But there's not a lot of research that goes into just like my normal stuff. It's really just kind of a stream of consciousness and catching a wave, and if I can catch a wave of creativity, which doesn't happen all the time, but when it does, I'm hoping that when I catch that wave, I'm also on, I have a really dope beat that is accompanying it. So I can kind of blend the two together. Yeah. Right. And if like TED Talk was an instance where that happened, the beat happened and I got lucky, in my opinion, that I caught a wave when I was listening to that beat and was able to kind of think of some just really creative stuff.
I love that you mentioned that, because that was the one that I was having in mind. Like, because it was just literally like just a flow of beat and the wordplay that you had on TED Talk. So did you find TED Talk being a difficult song to kind of finalize, or was that like a natural song for you to kind of create?
Well, I think when that song first came along, I just heard a beat. I don't even remember. I think it might have been a Drake beat or something, because it was the way the drums were. The drums were different than something I'd like normally rapped on. And a lot of times lately, I'm looking for unique drums because it gives me a different way to rap on it. And I can like find a different swag or a different energy on it. And TED Talk was one of those that the drums were unique. So I was like, cool, gives me like this vibe of like, not really bravado, but like you can like kind of be braggy on it, or just like with that confident energy on it. And so I start rapping on it. And originally there was just going to be a free verse type thing where it was just a verse, just a long verse from beginning to end. And that the hook was just a line in the song. I think the hook was just like it ended at, welcome to my TED Talk. And then it just kept going. Yeah. And as I'm recording it, we're making, I'm like, that feels like it's more like a chorus. Like, could we make a hook out of this beat? And so then we flip it and then we make the hook out of it. But then a song like that, like the second verse is where it starts to get a little hairy, because then I don't want to make it too long, but then I got to make it a little different, because that beat can get a little boring if it just continues to go with that same loop. And so you got to switch it up, and then you got to change the cadences a little bit. So it's a fun song to do, but it's one of those that once you finally get to end, you're like, thank God that came out the right way. You know what I mean? It's so hard to make a good song. I don't know if people understand that. And it's really, really hard to make a good song. And every time we make one, or what I feel is a good song, and we get to the end, I'm like, God damn, we got lucky on that one. You know what I mean? Like it's an incredibly hard thing to make good songs. And so once you do it, it is a really cool thing, you know?
Imagine it's like Frankensteining all of these like cool sounds to be able to have one cohesive kind of vibe throughout the whole track.
Yeah, and that was a lot of the things that we were doing. We did a lot. I think we probably did a lot more of that on the D3tour 2 record, of just really trying to add in entertaining elements, like different things that would just catch people off guard. And a lot of that, like stuff that happens in like TED Talk, or I'm trying to think of some other songs. We would just add just like random shit into it, or like Suicide Squad when we drop into like the Drake beat type thing. It's just trying to do different things that are, you know, dope while also being entertaining, because I think music should be entertaining. And just because regardless of what you're talking about, you can still make what you're doing entertaining. You know what I mean?
Right. And I love that you continue to challenge yourself within every track or every record that you release. With D3tour, we got to listen to some melodic singing from you right in the beginning. And you know, what was that like for you? Did you feel you were personally a natural singer, or did you feel like there was some training involved before you got to record that track?
No, I was always I that was my biggest insecurity as an artist, was the singing part. Yeah, always. I think up until, I think I maybe did a little bit of singing on like No More, I guess if you consider that, or Along the Way a little bit. But I think up until I did West Side, the East Side remix that we did on Through the Static, I hadn't really actually tried to sing anything ever. But started with a new engineer, and I was really comfortable around him, and he was incredibly talented and really good at what he did. And I felt comfortable to where I could try new things and I wouldn't feel stupid. You know, it's easy to get in that in your head and not want to feel embarrassed around, you know, an engineer you don't know, or even around yourself. You know what I mean? You have to get to that point where you just start playing around so much that you don't care if you sound dumb or if that didn't work. You know, you have to go through that mental blockage just to get to the good stuff. And so that's where a lot of the singing came from on this record, or songs like I'm Not All Right that I've had sitting in my notes for like 3 years that never actually did because I wasn't sure I could actually make it. And then I'm able to finally make it because I have, you know, an engineer that helps me step out of my comfort zone and really try new things and try singing. And then you get songs like Dream Eater and, you know, different types of hooks. And then it opens up this whole box. It's like I'm given an extra tool that I didn't have before. And I'm like, I could use this on everything. You know what I mean? So then I start, you know, then I'm like, I don't want to use it too much, but I'm having fun with it. And so that's how, you know, all these different, you know, songs like The Edge come out, where just like melodic elements, maybe not the whole thing is melodic, but I can do more things. And so it re-inspires me to start making new stuff. So I'm kind of excited to see what the next tool that I find might be that we start using.
The idea of getting vulnerable on a track, especially to an audience that, you know, you obviously know is listening, how easy or how difficult is that for you to get vulnerable for your audience?
It's easy to do. It's easy to do, like in theory, like I don't mind it. I like doing it. For me, what's hard is being genuine and making sure that those songs are as good as possible, because I'm really not a fan of forced vulnerability or when you can tell if it's not genuine. You can tell if it's not done right. And so those songs, the thing that's hard about it is just making it right and doing it correctly. And you know, so if I get real, like if I write a song like about suicide, like Love Yourself, or if I write a song like I'm Not All Right, it's incredibly important to me that I do it right for me. Because I know if I expect that when people hear this, they're going to connect with it and it might help somebody in a rough time, I want to do it right. You know what I'm saying? So on a song like I'm Not All Right, the second I've had that song for 3 years sitting in my notes, like I said. And the
Yeah.
second verse was always like a rap verse. And I had the original demo of it, the original mix of it has a rap part on the second verse. And I sat with that for like a year and I was like, something not right about it. Like it didn't fit. Like it was good, but it wasn't exactly what it needed to be. So I think like a year later, I went back and finally we remade the second verse to what it is now. And I was like, I think that's what it should be. You know, it's kind of like getting out of the way of the song,
Yeah.
which is hard to do, especially for, rappers, or when it's like you want to flex on something or you want to show off your skills or you want to try and, you know, show off how, I don't know, deep you can be or how poetic or whatever it is. Sometimes it's like, just get out of the way of the song. Just, I have to humble myself and be like, the song is more important as a whole than me as an artist trying to show off on this. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Right.
So getting out of the way and knowing what the song is supposed to be for others and letting that beat sometimes has to come first, especially on the vulnerable ones.
With D3tour, the debut D3tour, you gave us 9 tracks. With D3tour 2, you gave us 9 tracks again. And then with D3tour 3, you gave us 21. Was this a conscious decision that you had already for this record, or was this something that kind of happened because of the vibe that you were having with this new producer?
Well, I think the D3tour 2 also had 21 tracks. So the first one was 9, and that just kind of happened as like the way it was. Like I didn't even know what was going to happen with the first D3tour record. I just knew we had these songs and I thought they were dope, and it felt of like more of an EP but less of like a super full length, and so that just ended up being how many tracks was on it. And the second one, I was just releasing singles for a while because that's just how the market was at the time,
Right.
and still is. I mean, it's like you got to put a single out every other week and continue to build that up for your Spotify numbers, for the algorithm, or just for the way content works and staying in people's feeds and staying relevant. And so we had put out all these singles, leading towards an album, and we get like 17 or 17, we get like 13 or 14 in. I'm like, all right, we got to put the record out because I can't just keep putting out these singles. There's too many right now. And so we got to consolidate and put them all on one album. And this is the same exact thing that happened with D3tour 3. We got to consolidate them. And I know I'm going to repackage these songs I've already put out and I'm going to sell them as an album. But I don't feel right doing that. And so I need to put 7, 8 new songs on it. So I feel like there's a value for the fans buying the album. You know what I'm saying? I can't just put these out and then put an intro and an outro and be like, boom, that's an album. I would think that was whack as a consumer, as a fan. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, I need to put at least an EP's worth of music on here to justify selling it as a record for me. So then it ends up being 21 songs because you have all the singles and then I add on top all the new songs. But I mean, it's a lot. I'm probably not going to do anything that long ever again. I don't think. I don't know if it hurts or helps because I'm too close to it. So I don't want any songs to get, glazed over just because, the first half, you can get like the first half of the album and be like, yo, it's fire. And sometimes just get caught up in the first half of the album because there's such a long second half. You know what I'm saying? So I don't lose out on those songs. And 21 songs is just it's a long record for anybody.
Yeah, but I mean, the fact that you keep me dialed in when I'm listening to your music. It's not like I can't just pick and choose favorites. Like that's the beauty of your records, that you have hits throughout. It's not just like 2, 3 songs that stick out and the rest are fillers. So I feel like that's a challenge in itself. But in doing so, like, how do you not run out of material and kind of like that motivation or that spark? Because I feel like when you do too much, it can affect you, whether you love it or not.
That's a good question. I think I'm kind of fortunate in the fact of like what my content has always been
Hmm.
is that if I start to get burnt out on one thing, I can always switch it up. Like I was feeling burnt out the other day, and then we ended up making like when I get really burnt out, I have to get more creative. Is really all it is.
Wow.
And so I start getting super burnt out, but I realize because I'm doing the same shit over and over and
Yeah.
over, and I'm not feeling like enthusiastic about anything. I'm not, hyped up about anything. So when we make, we flip like the Loki beat from the Loki theme song, and I'm like, I'm like having fun again. And I'm like, all right, well now this gives me something I can like hop in, and I have to like really dig in and do some research and all this kind of stuff. And that it just switches, and it's just like I'm not just finding beats and trying to rap, you know what I mean, just to keep the machine going or whatever. And that's really what I've always found out. If I have writer's block or whatever,
Hmm.
it's just it's only because I'm not writing about what I need to be writing about. Like there's always something there. I'm usually trying to force something that's not there, and which is why I feel like I have writer's block. And I can, when I feel like that, I'll always end up finding something. And maybe it's not a song that'll ever come out. It's not something that'll see the light of day, but it's something that I can write and keep the ideas going and try and stay as sharp as I can, or whatever. Just write to some different kind of songs, or write an 80s song, or challenge myself, just do something weird or outside of the
Right.
box. But it is hard to continue to, put out good songs, or, uh, that was like one of the things on this record. But I was lucky when we were making this. We were just working every single day and trying to make new stuff, and always working. I think majority of the next record is done. It's not
Jeez.
mixed, but it's like
That's
done.
great.
Um, I just, like I said, man, like I feel like this is my job,
Yeah.
in a good way and sometimes in a bad way, but like this is what I do, and it's what I've always wanted to do. So I write every day. I make songs every day. I'm trying to make new content every day, and I want to grow this as big as possible, and I want to build, as big as it possibly can. So I'm just out here grinding. That's what I do. I don't really know another way, you know.
Right. Yeah. Well, I see that hustle and that grind really like starting to pay off. Especially with right now #2 on iTunes hip hop charts with D3tour 3. So congratulations with that. But more importantly, like kicking off this weekend, you have your headline tour. And so like that must feel amazing after you've been in the studio for so long creating this record. Now this record is out, and then now you get to actually express the record live to your audience. So as we move forward to this upcoming headline tour, what can your fans look forward to?
Man, yeah, it's a little nerve wracking. You know what I mean? I've never headlined a tour before, so I'm a little nervous, just because I don't know exactly what the head counts are going to be, or what my draw is in certain markets. And luckily, I have a booking agent that was pushing me. It was like, nah, it's time. You can't be opening for motherfucker. Like you have to. We got to branch out. Like it's time. So I'm super excited. The crazy thing is I released the D-Tour 2 during, and the D-Tour. So I have all these songs I've never performed live. And I have,
Yeah,
essentially 42 new songs that I've never played live ever.
that's a long
So
ass set.
building the set list was, yeah. So we had to like chop it down to like, still 22, 23 songs, and a set is long.
Yeah,
Uh, so it was really difficult to figure out what songs we're going to do, and which ones we're going to run with on this, and how to, step outside of, I was really, really good. I was really good at being an opener. Like I had like a tight 20-minute set, 25-minute set, crush it. Like I knew what I was doing, and I can make a lot of fans by doing what I do, opening for people, opening for friends of mine, whatever it is. And so, but stepping out and now headlining is a completely different beast. And it's been, a fun thing building the set and figuring out, you know, the flow of the set is the same as like the flow of an album, and you know, figuring out what songs people are going to want, and hoping you don't miss any songs that people are there for or connect with in a big way. You don't want to miss out on those, but obviously you can't make every single one, because someone might be like, oh, my favorite song is the song you put out 3-4 years ago, Infinity Bars. It's like, well, I want to do that song, but you know what I mean? Like, it just didn't make it in a set, and I don't want anyone to walk away feeling like they didn't get something they wanted.
Right.
But yeah, it's awesome. I mean, I got into this. I love performing live music. You know what I mean? Like, I love hip hop. I love writing songs, and I like playing shows. And when the hit, and I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna ever get to play shows again. And there was a big part of me was like, am I still gonna do this? Because that's a big part of why I got into this. I love performing shows. And if I don't ever get to tour again, that's like a big part of, you know, this whole dream or what have you, that's no longer available.
Yeah.
And that sucks. And so there was a weird, you know, transitionary period of thinking about stuff, but trying not to get too far ahead. And now that shows are back, or hopefully staying back with all this craziness going on, I'm happy to be playing shows again for as long as I'm able to.
Yeah, well, definitely looking forward to it, man. And like, congratulations again with this record, and just, you know, the success that's going on with you. Just because people are getting to pay attention to your music, and yeah, I'm really excited to see what this tour turns out like.
Me too, man. I really appreciate all the support, and you know, just being on here, and I'm glad to be here, and always glad to be seen. It's you know, I went a long time with nobody giving a shit. So every time, you know, I'm able to sit down with somebody who does, or just, you know, wants to take time out to talk about me or my music or what I've been doing, it's a big deal to me. So I appreciate it.
Amazing, man. Well, congratulations, and thank you for taking the time, dude.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime.